As an inspiring journalist, I'm always curious about stories that other reporters like writing and the process they go through. Eleanor Mathers, editor-in-chief of The Crimson, talks a bit about what she personally does to gather stories. Walk me through your story gathering process. How do you find a story to write about?
Well, at first, I go the easy route and think about things that I'm interested in, and then clubs that my friends are in, and then things that bother me on campus.
The process she goes through to rank her story ideas differs slightly from most.
At first, it was what I wanted to write and what I was interested in, but then it turned into what I figured would be the most important for students on campus.
She classifies things that are important to students as anything that may affect them directly.
That's going to be classified as things like construction around campus or things that administration or SGA is doing. So things that are changing on campus is the way I can summarize that.
The angle of the story generally depends on her readers.
You have to think about the angle for people that don't care. And that's the students that don't know that it's going on or that just have so many other things that are happening. And so you really have to think of the angle that they're going to care about and trying to think of questions and information that you have to gather for them so that they will hopefully care about it.
She tries to keep her stories as objective as possible by balancing her personal feelings with information that challenges that bias.
Personal bias is always going to be in your story. There's no way to get around that. So the way that I try to counter it is thinking of, well, what is my personal bias? You always have to address what your personal bias is in a story, and then the way you balance that out is what you don't agree with, and you look into what you don't agree with, and that's the best way I think you can try to balance out the personal bias in your story so that you have you've addressed what your personal bias is for one, and then what someone who doesn't agree with you is going to want in the story.
She also has a process for ranking the people she finds for interviews.
I look first for administration, faculty, and staff that I'm going to want to interview. Any kind of expert that I need to get a hold of, because those are the people with the schedules that are going to be the most packed. And then whenever it comes to students, a lot of the times I work through my friend group, not to interview them, but to see if they have people that I don't know that are, either, affected by the story or that might have a care about it or that can at least get in contact with me.
Her final words speak to what she feels is the most important part of writing a story: staying objective.
I think when working with a story angle, the main thing to remember is that everyone is going to see bias in it. Even if it didn't come across as that, everyone's going to see an angle. And so what you need to do as a writer, in my opinion, is do your best to work on all angles. There is not a good and bad side. There's always an in-between. And so what you have to do is work with that in-between and find an angle that you didn't think about, because somebody's going to have an opinion that you didn't get to. So you always have to take into consideration that opinion and do your best to look into it.
All right, Elena, thank you very much for your time.
Of course.